Welcome. I'm Purpose Fulfillment Guide and author Roslyn Elena McGrath. And today I'm sharing a bit about my own experience of soul awakening, which I don't believe that there is ever a finite point regarding awakening and blossoming our souls, that there is always more potential. And so this is always a work in process, though certainly there are times where we are aware that we're involved in a greater stretch, or perhaps in hindsight, certainly it's in hindsight that I came to the conclusion that a challenge I had to deal with when I was in my late 20s was actually a soul sickness, because I did not realize at the time that I moved into this challenge that I had lost touch with my connectedness with myself, my awareness of how I really felt about things. I was more focused on what I thought I should do. And so that brought me to a point, and certainly I thought I'm doing the best I can do, right? I'm doing what I should be doing in the best way that I know how to do that. But I was not realizing that I was disregarding signals that my inner guidance system was giving me. And I came to a place where I got sick, not life-threatening sick, but sick enough that uh, being in my late 20s and having been reasonably healthy up to that point, I came to a sickness that was in my face because I was feeling unwell day after day after day. And I had gotten mono. I perhaps went back to work too soon, following pressures to do so. And I would say too soon on a certain level, but it actually was a factor in creating this perfect storm to where my I was just feeling lousy day after day after day, and had more and more difficulty uh, to feel good meeting the demands of my job, working with 500 to 600 elementary school students to share art with them in a limited amount of time with not much time in between. And so there were physical, mental, emotional demands. I was a fairly new teacher that were just more than was acceptable to me to deal with that level of unwellness. So I hit an immune system low that eventually led to my getting pneumonia. But this process was so key to my moving outside the box and getting in touch with new ways to connect with myself and experience the world, and certainly to support my health, because every time I moved even the least bit further into my intuitive and emotionally aware nature, every time that I cleared some emotional baggage, I felt better. And every moment that mm, I was functioning more out of obligation, or pushing the river, even in the slightest way, of where my energy level was at, I would feel worse. So it was very clear to me the kinds of changes overall that I needed to make. And so, of course, that was certainly a work in process. And I began learning more about metaphysics, holistic wellness, energy field healing for my own healing, never having a clue that I would be sharing those types of things with others. And as I continued in that journey, following my inner guidance on mm, what was calling me, I became drawn to more and more opportunities for experiencing my soul's energy and integrating that more fully into my life. And so as my as I took advantage of more and more opportunities, there became more and more ease in expressing my particular soul's nature, which has a lot to do with bridging worlds and assisting others through that bridge. And that can come through the one-on-one work that I do with people to flourish their purpose as an expression of my flourishing my own, as well as group events and trainings, artwork, as you might see on the walls there, some of the channeled writings, books that have come through me, poetry, all of that is how it is natural for my soul to express in this life. Now, you may think back now on some challenging experiences that you've had, and perhaps they have been your dark night of the soul, or are at this moment. Typically easier to see in hindsight than when you're in the midst of it. Certainly for myself, I found it that way. And as you go further and further into blossoming your soul expression, it doesn't mean that there are never any kinds of obstacles to overcome, but there is a sense of rightness, a sense of purpose. There is a sense of a good stretch, or maybe even a more than you thought was going to be good stretch, right? But there is that sense of growth and potential and light, whether it's light at the end of the tunnel or more and more light that you are experiencing in yourself and around you and in your world. And so, certainly, I've had to and continue to move through challenges related to beliefs that, in some way or another, hold that soul expression back, and how aspects of ego can be expressed through me and in my world, and how I'm going to respond to that. So there is always more we can open to and always more we can activate. It has been just such an honor to experience the kinds of downloads and activations of spiritual energy and emotional freedom that that soul connection can give. And so I'd love to hear any highlights, tidbits you'd like to share in the comments about your own soul awakening, soul blossoming experience, any thoughts or questions that you may have. And I want to thank you so much for being here. If you find this of interest, please be sure to like and subscribe, and tune in for the rest of this soul series. And thank you for being here and for being you, because your soul and its unique expression of the divine is key to all of us moving into a more heavenly experience of life on this beautiful earth. So, namaste and many blessings, my friends.